Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Marku42. There are over 150,000 titles to choose for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. You lucky guys. And now, here's the show.
I'm Colin Baker, and you are listening to Mark Who 42, The Meaning of Life.
42 Universe.
Welcome to Mark Who 42's Universe, Doctor Who Universe, that is. I'm your host, Mark-Baumgarten, and with me, as always, are the ever-lovely
Patricia-Helm.
The ever-interesting
Ground control to Major Tom. Are you receiving me? Ground control to Major Tom. Oh, I'm sorry, different sending. Eduardo-m-Freyre.
and the ever-working
This is Christian-basel, and after watching The Caretaker, I made a very loud spillage.
Go clean it up. Go clean it up. Go clean that up.
Clean
Go
up
clean
in
that up.
aisle 3.
That's disgusting. That's disgusting. Go clean it up.
You mean the paper
What is
towels.
wrong with you?
I think we better go to...
We'd better go to Doctor Who News with our Doctor Who correspondent, Patricia-Helm. Patricia, you're not as messy as Mr. Basil, are you? You're a good girl. You don't
I
make
try to be.
horrible, horrible messes.
No spillage.
No spillage. This is a no spillage program.
I don't remember eating corn.
Ooh, got news.
You, sir,
All right,
are a
so-
yucky man.
And you, sir, have a terrible British accent. Next, news.
Okay, so it's been a few weeks since we've been on. So today we're obviously reviewing 2 of the episodes. So I have the ratings for both episodes, at least so far for as what they've given us. But at least last time we reviewed Time Heist, and their final numbers ended up being 6.99 million for the UK. Okay. So that's pretty good. And The Caretaker, they had 4.89 million an overnight score with a total final of 6.82 million. So it was a little bit down from Time Heist. And then for last night's episode, Kill the Moon, it was 4.81 million overnight and no final numbers. They'll give us that next week. So it's dropping just a couple hundredths of a point every week. So, I mean, it's pretty steady, actually.
I have opinions on that, but
I know you
I'm
do.
not gonna give them now.
I know you do. Oh, now last night also on BBC America, and I think it was last week it aired on BBC One. Graham Norton show came back.
I just watched that. Yeah.
They had Peter-Capaldi on.
And Denzel Washington and
Yes, I don't
a guy
remember.
named George Ezra singing, and I didn't like his music.
I fast forward through it.
Yeah.
And that chick from that failed Jake Gyllenhaal
Oh, the chick
movie.
from Prince of Persia.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where she was from.
And she was
Okay.
from, if you watched the
hot.
episode, you would have found that out. I didn't know who she was either.
Trish,
until
they
showed the clip.
remember they showed her on horseback, and and she's talking about riding a horse, and
I wasn't paying
Turning
attention
her
to her.
head. It was
I didn't give a crap. So, anyway.
spillage.
Yeah, that's another person we won't have on the show anytime soon.
Youch.
Trish is taking him out.
So you were telling us about the Graham Norton show with Peter Capaldi.
It was funny because, he's so thrilled to be the Doctor. And, of course, Graham embarrassed the heck out of him, by showing old pictures of him from his modeling days.
Okay, I don't understand that pose. Like Graham didn't understand the pose. Why was his elbow on his... it just didn't work.
No. No, it was silly, and, yeah, it was
Embarrassing.
Look,
embarrassing.
the Apes audition picture there.
And then the little thing from the book on the Doctor Who fan club.
Oh, yes.
Where he got a letter back, from the BBC saying, so they already have a secretary of the club, and then there was this insult to someone else about him. He's not as bad as that Peter C.
Yeah.
Hey, but of course, the moral of the story is now Peter C is laughing all the way to the bank.
Oh, definitely.
with his little TARDIS keychain.
Does the BBC really pay you that much? I don't know if he's laughing all the way to the bank. He's laughing all the way to the credit union.
Well, you know what I mean. bank credit union.
I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
You know what I mean. He gets to walk around with that nice coat, going, "Oh, what did I do today? I was Doctor Who. Oh, you're at Starbucks. Oh, where was I? I was filming Doctor Who."
I just hope his bank doesn't have that thing that turns your brain into soup. That would be really, really bad.
Good. Oh, goodness. You guys have heard of the Doctor Who experience, right?
Yes, I have. In fact, we had Juan San Miguel on the show a month ago, talking about the old experience.
Well, it's been
Spoiler.
closed for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's going to be reopening at the end of October.
Oh.
And they've redone parts of it, and there's going to be a new adventure starring Peter Capaldi as the 12th
So the
Doctor.
ride has been changed.
Yes, to include the 12th Doctor.
Wow.
In the new adventure, as they're calling it, it's going to let fans star in their very own episode of Doctor Who, whatever that means.
I star in my own adventure of Doctor Who every week here on Mark Who 42 on Krypton Radio. Except we're not on Krypton Radio right now, are
No.
we? No. Sorry?
Easy to forget.
Yeah, this is you. If you're listening to our newscast right now, you're listening to a special presentation. We did not include the news on our Krypton Radio broadcast, so you're listening to bonus features, an Easter egg for you, the viewer or listener, whatever you are.
Oh, so as they star in their own adventure, they're going to begin in the Gallifrey Museum and journey into the heart of the TARDIS. And visitors will have to grapple with a threat that could destroy the universe. Sounds very ominous. I like it. Now I want to really go.
Yeah, it's a Moffat whole plot line, right?
Probably.
Oh yeah, Moffat. Oh.
Yeah, and they added new props from Peter Capaldi's debut as the Doctor to the museum, and so there's going to be lots of little gadgets and things, and they added a bunch of monsters.
Do they have the Clockwork Man?
Doesn't say, but that would be cool. I hope they have them running too.
That would be excellent.
Yes. And then they're also bringing back the tours of the TARDIS sets. I guess they had stopped that for a while, but now they are bringing that back, so you actually get to go and walk on the current set of the TARDIS. And the last two as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind doing that.
No, I think
I
that would
would
be a
not
fun
mind it.
vacation.
That would be fun. Yes.
Could that be why in the teaser for the new experience we have the 12th Doctor in various old TARDIS sets?
Yeah.
Probably.
I gotta say, though, a part of me is curious about something because in the teaser we have the Capaldi Doctor throwing switches at one of the TARDIS sets. Can anybody answer this for me? Day of the Doctor, when we have the infamous eye shot,
Mm-hmm.
are we able to tell where he is, like what the TARDIS around him looks like?
Not really. It was pretty close.
Because we get the hand with the lever, and we get the eyes.
Yeah.
Does this mean that the Doctor Who experience will show that Day of the Doctor scene from his perspective? Is this where we'll get that scene? Because I'm kind of wondering, is the scene that I want so badly, are they going to give it to us, but we have to go all the way over to London to see it?
Isn't it in Cardiff?
Yes,
Or
it's in
Cardiff, or
Cardiff. London.
the UK.
Yeah, UK.
The UK. My apologies. You get what I mean?
You should apologize. You've ostracized a lot of fans over there. Alienated them.
I am terribly sorry. I am
No.
horribly sorry. I'm sorry for anything for any distress my comment may have caused you or your family. I am terribly and very truly sorry.
Then stop the accent, and
Yes.
maybe they'll accept your apology.
Hey, I was quoting A Fish Called Wanda. Okay, that's a very funny movie. I probably just made some people laugh.
You made us laugh.
Yeah. You made some people laugh.
At least 3 of us. Yeah.
3 people laugh.
Oh.
I think Peter Capaldi is going through each thing because they didn't have the audio of him in there, and he keeps flicking switches, and he goes from TARDIS to TARDIS and goes, "I redecorated. I don't like it. I redecorated. I don't
I like that.
I like it."
I like that.
He does this about 13 times.
And then at the end, Clara
round
says
things.
it. Oh, I shouldn't
Love
say
the round
that.
thing.
Oh,
That was terrible the way she said it.
Should I get back to the news?
Please do.
Now, I haven't really listened to very many Doctor Who audios, but I know that you have,
Shame
Mark.
on you.
Now, do you know of a woman named Maggie Stables?
Yeah, Evelyn Smythe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she passed away on Friday,
Yeah,
the 26th of September.
Yeah.
Yes, she played the character known as Evelyn Smythe, and she's actually considered the very first elderly companion of the Doctor.
Yeah, she was. She was a professor, and the Doctor takes her away, and it's really cool. I mean, they went on some great adventures together, and she was a great companion. I don't know if it would have worked on TV, but on audio, it was perfect.
It said in the article that I read that, she's the one credited with making the Sixth Doctor likable.
Yes. Her pairing with the Doctor definitely brings a softer Sixth Doctor. Definitely.
Well, did anybody hear the webcast real time?
Yeah.
When you finally put Colin with a story that's worthy of his acting, and unfortunately it was audio, that was and the ending. If anybody has a chance in our audience, please check out, if you can or can get a hold of it. It's called Real Time. It is an audio. Is it Big Finish?
Real Time was done in conjunction with Big Finish, but it was for IBBC. It was for the BBC website. It was actually an animation.
It was the same
audio.
thing.
It wasn't just
yeah,
audio,
it's an animation, but it also was in conjunction with Death Comes to Time.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how either one of these are going to be canon. They just can't be. But if you want a really good story, either one of those, but definitely Real Time is awesome.
What did you think about the one I sold you?
The Holy Terror?
The Holy Terror with Frobisher. What do you think about that?
I think I reviewed that in the past, or at least mentioned.
Okay, but I'm asking you now.
Awesome.
I'm just asking you now.
Like I said, if Colin Baker was paired up with these stories that came out on audio,
right,
instead of some of the flimsy stories, and I don't think the stories were so bad, but maybe also the technology that they had at the time wasn't supporting what the imagination that these writers had. So it looked really tacky, it looked really bad. But to hear them on audio and using your imagination as a set and hearing these wonderful stories, my goodness, the potential that Colin Baker could have had with this character, it's a shame that it didn't go as far as it did.
Cool.
So Maggie, we hate to see you go. That's a downer.
I'm sorry.
Can we raise us up? Can we have a lifter?
Well, the BBC, they released the official story synopsis for Flatline.
Oh, yeah, that's Flatline. Yeah,
no.
I'm sorry. That totally, okay, get it over with. Down me some more.
Let me read it first, and then we'll talk about why it's a downer from Mark, okay? Okay. Now this one is written by Jamie Matheson. It doesn't look like it's co-written by Steven-Moffat, so neither was Kill the Moon. Yeah. So, okay. Separated from the Doctor, Clara discovers a new menace from another dimension. But how do you hide when even the walls are no protection? With people to save and the Doctor trapped, Clara comes up against an enemy that exists beyond human perception. Okay, now I know why Mark has a problem with this. It's probably kind of the reason that I do too. It seems like it's going to be a Dr. Light episode, very heavy on the Clara. But I've heard that next week's episode, Mummy on the Orient Express, is going to be Clara Light.
Well, I would hope so for the reasons that happened in Kill the Moon, but we'll talk about that later. No, I was referring to Flatline being bad because we just talked about someone dying, and then the next thing you bring up is Flatline.
Yeah, that's I didn't make the connection.
That's what I was saying. You totally, all right.
You shallow man, you.
So I guess we shouldn't talk about Grace Point next, should we?
No, we should talk about Grace Point. David Tennant, Grace Point, woohoo!
I know, Mark,
James Strong, the director, Chris Chibnall, the writer, from Broadchurch.
I know I saw that you posted on Facebook that you didn't really care for it, Mark.
And it wasn't that I didn't care for it. It wasn't that I didn't care for it. It was just there were so many shot per shot. It's like James Strong, the director, brought the same exact shot sheet that he used in episode 1 of Broadchurch, and instead of resetting up and doing it a little differently, basically he used the same shot sheet. That's my problem, was that it was so completely.
But we knew that going in. We reported on that.
I heard
we reported on that.
We did.
But angles.
Yes,
angles.
I even said that on the.
You said that the angles of the shots were going to be the exact same angle.
Yes, I said that it was going to be shot for. They said the first 2 episodes was going to be shot for shot the same.
Okay. I guess I don't listen to our own podcast then because I didn't hear that.
And they said after the 2nd episode is when it starts to change.
I hope so.
I think I can. I'm going to support Mark's theory, but I don't think he's bringing it up as strongly as I have. I think I'm just a little bit wound up when American television thinks they can take British television and make it work over here.
Why couldn't Fox just broadcast Broadchurch?
because you watched Broadchurch. Most people don't get the way that they live in their town.
Right.
It's different than how people live in towns in America. It is.
Well,
the way that they go about their lives.
The way in England, it doesn't take place in America.
And also a lot of the dialogue. I mean, people are complaining about having to turn the closed captioning on to watch Doctor Who. People would be complaining the same way if they just broadcast Broadchurch over here. And then also there's a lot of the British slang. We're used to a lot of it because of watching Doctor Who and other things like that. Most Americans don't.
But Nick Nolte is David Bradley. I mean, I could almost see that possibly. But David Tennant as David Tennant, the accent was horrible.
I didn't think it was horrible.
I gotta disagree.
It was grating, but I'm talking like this. That was his accent on Grace Point.
I thought his accent was fine. I thought he did a wonderful performance. Look, I will say this.
Well, you haven't seen Rogers, so you don't know how much better he was.
Well, I didn't see it, but, I saw Grace Point. I thought he did a fine job. As far as Nick Nolte filling in for David Bradley, again, for the tiny bit that he was in, I thought he was good.
Yeah, I said it might work. Nick Nolte might work.
What I side with is what's been said, which is Grace Point. For those who saw Broadchurch, Grace Point is not for you. It's not for the people who saw Broadchurch.
But that's not fair.
It's for the people. It's for the people who haven't seen it. And look, I'll say this, Mark, like you, and remember, I'm also an anime fan, so I get very worried when a foreign property is brought to the U.S. because I've seen good ones and bad ones. I've seen where they've done really well bringing over the concept, and I've seen cases where they just butcher something.
Coupling.
And
the American version was terrible.
The American version
not to mention that anime-wise, the anime card captures and parts of Sailor Moon were butchered. But moving on, I think so far, Grace Point works. So far it works. I didn't see Broadchurch, so I can't do a compare and contrast. But so far, I like what I see.
Same thing, but with actors that were less quality. I'm sorry. I thought the acting was a little bit subpar compared to Broadchurch.
Well, you know what, though? It's like I try not to judge things off the first episode. Because sometimes,
I judge Selfie from the first episode. I will not watch it again.
I don't. I mean, I will watch it. I will try it again, but I have a bad feeling about Selfie. I don't think it's going to work. I mean, I watched the first one. I was not impressed, but again, I always try not to judge things so much on the first episode. I try to give it a chance because, with the American version of The Office, I hated the first episode.
The American version of The Office was, again, a shot-per-shot, line-by-line, same exact as the British one.
And I hated the first episode, but I stuck with it and I kept it.
Did you see the British version of the first episode?
Yes, I did.
And you liked that?
No, not really.
No, you didn't like The Office anyway.
I didn't see the British version of The Office until after I saw the American one.
So then, okay.
And I still didn't care for the first episode, but I gave it a chance, and of course it turned into a really good show. So I don't see that happening with Selfie because I didn't like the idea of Selfie from the first time I saw a promo for it.
Yeah.
Because
I agree.
Because how can this turn into a series?
Her accent sucks too.
Because
I'm sorry, I'm just saying.
But the thing is that it's, basically a redux of My Fair Lady.
Which is a redux of Pygmalion.
Yes. And the thing is, though, what happens after he fixes her? I can't see it going beyond, one season, if that.
I can't see it going beyond
because...
a couple episodes before it gets canceled.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure it will be.
I'm sorry, Karen. And I'm sorry, John Cho.
Yeah.
Sorry. But you know what? John Cho at least can show up on Sleepy Hollow every once in a while like he did on the first episode, and we'll be fine with that.
I think you guys are pushing my point to the extreme over here. We have two different audiences. We have an American, we have a UK.
Right.
And what I'm about to say is I'm not trying to insult the American audience, but they want things fast. They want things funny. Yeah. They want it rapid fire. No thought into it. When they get to 30 minutes, at the last 30 minutes, so they get done with the show, that was cute, move on. With the UK and with Broadchurch. We have a different type of audience, and we've kind of assimilated into that audience because we can take the time. After the show, we want to think about it days after. Oh my God, this happened. Who killed Danny? Then they added the new...
the water cooler effect on Grace Point. They want the water cooler. They want people to discuss it.
And they may have wised up and said, you know what, we're going to change the ending. But that's my point.
Yeah.
You have some two really great actors like John Cho and Karen Gillan, and you put them in a show like Selfie.
Yeah.
And this is your example. This is the best you can do with this talent. This is the writing that you come up with. This is the originality.
If you look at the premise of Selfie and the way that they film it and how it's all about Facebook and Twitter, and they think
They've
that's
got a concept.
That they got a concept because that is what's popular right now.
That's what it is.
They're hoping to drag the teenagers into the show.
No, but
this isn't a show.
It is not.
It's a
what
concept
they
show.
Can
It's
actually pull with the talent that they've got. And I mean, you could probably done this with two totally different actors with no names, but you got really good names on it and a concept thing, and that's something that they could really be pulling off. But that's the American way, unfortunately. It's just to say that the audience is different. We want it fast. We want it. We want it funny.
Right. Well, going off of what Trish was saying, they try to focus on the social media aspect of it. And I'm sure, and not to start bad-mouthing the writers of Selfie, but I'm sure that they were in there, they were thinking that they were being this, very cute, we're capture the current cultural zeitgeist and its weaknesses. Like, I'm sure they thought they were being just so clever, but it just comes off as...
Yeah, but they're treating us stupid.
But it's not only that. I mean, look at the stuff that they tried to convert, and The Office worked, in my eyes, because... It worked because of the characterization. We wanted to see each of the characters. It finally evolved into something that could work in America. But Red Dwarf, Life on Mars.
Well, you know what? I like Harvey Keitel in Life on Mars. I actually like the American version of Life on Mars.
But it didn't work because the Americans were not ready for something like that.
Yeah, but Red Dwarf USA, I've actually seen that. I had it years ago, a bootleg copy of the pilot for Red Dwarf USA, and that was the worst. But the girl who plays Dax in Deep Space Nine, she was going to be the cat.
Okay, then.
I'm just saying. I say a lot of things.
I'm just saying I don't even watch network TVs. ABC, CBS, NBC, all those I've replaced with Discovery, BBC America, History Channel, because I think there's more to it going on. With my mind, I think I've adapted to a UK audience where I want to know more. I want to think about it. And especially the humor, like Monty Python. You couldn't put Monty Python on today, or, back then it was too much for an American audience to handle. Yeah. Benny Hill, that couldn't work. It had a lot of slapstick, but there were some things thought-provoking about it as well. Yeah. The two Ronnies.
No, they would just, if you tried to do Benny Hill over here, the focus would be on the more adult humor, sort of.
Yeah, the chases and all that stuff, but some of the stuff that made you think, I don't think it would have worked well in an American audience. I don't even think it would have worked well now. Could you imagine Monty Python on a regular channel? If nobody even heard about it and the Pythons came over on ABC at 8 p.m., right after Selfie?
I would hope.
Could that work?
No.
Oh, God. But yeah, no, I watched Broadchurch. I loved Broadchurch. I liked the first episode of Grace Point, and I'm going to keep watching it. I want to get to the point where I'm like, oh, wow, I have no idea what's going on now. Yeah. And then I want to see how I feel about it at that point, too. But I didn't think it was terrible. I thought it was fine. I know why people are worried because, they tend to screw things up when they try to bring it over to an American audience. But
they
I don't think
the writer, they do have the directors. So I mean, they've got what they need. I just wish there was at least one or two different. If it just changed completely, if it was a completely different story.
Well, they got Broadchurch 2. They're filming that right now.
Well, yeah, Broadchurch 2 is going to be great. I'm going to see that. Oh, yeah. Have you guys been watching Downton Abbey? Oh, no, you can't. It's not on yet. But I have. It's a great show. And the first 2 episodes have been amazing. And episode 3 is on tonight as we record this. It's already been on if you're listening to it.
We'll take your word for it.
I don't wait for things. I don't wait.
Wow, Mark. So I guess you don't believe in delayed gratification?
And on that note, next news story.
Spoilers.
Okay, now we're up to the birthdays.
Now see, when I said can we change it up from the Maggie story, you should have went to birthdays. That's where I would have went. But okay, not flatline, but birthdays. So Go with the birthday.
Yesterday, October 7th, was Tony Way's birthday. And Tony Way, he was in Deep Breath. He was the poor guy that got his eyes ripped out by Half-Face Man.
Don't we have an interview with Tony Way coming up?
Yes, we do.
Well, Gene, now the audience knows that. We could have surprised them.
Oh, no, I don't like surprises. You told me I don't like delayed gratification. Oh, you just told me.
Obviously.
Aren't you paying attention?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't tell you that. I asked, and you didn't answer.
Okay, so to our audience, we may or may not have an interview with Tony Way. There.
We have an interview with Tony Way. It's coming up sometime.
But if we did have one, it might be in November. Who knows?
It might be in October. I don't know.
Might be in October.
So happy birthday, Tony.
So happy birthday, Tony.
Yes,
and
don't forget he was on Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was in the American version of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo as Plague. If we did do an interview with him, which you know what we did, let's not since Mark dropped that surprise, but yeah, we did interview him. But hey, that means we've officially crossed the border. We've actually had a Game of Thrones actor on the podcast, and we've even branched out into Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, that trilogy. So, hey, we've reached a milestone! Woohoo!
Now in a few days, on October 11th, it's Nicola Bryant's birthday.
Nicola Bryant's birthday. Oh, that's two good reasons to wish her a happy birthday.
Oh, jeez.
God.
No, that she was on Doctor Who and that she's a good actress. I don't know what you guys are thinking.
Nice recovery there, Mark. Nice recovery.
Patrick Hawkins, are you hearing this just by any chance?
Patrick Hawkins, you got the joke, didn't you? I'm sure you did.
But I have, I just have one thing to wonder about Nicola Bryant's birthday. Will Brian Blessed be there to help her celebrate?
Happy birthday, Nicola! Golden alive!
He's going to come out of the birthday cake and shoot her, and then afterwards marry her on the way out the door.
He's going to pop out, instead of blackbirds in a pie, it's going to be like a bunch of hawkmen.
To me, my hawkmen! Last boom, 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 boom.
Okay. Trying to figure out what podcast I'm on right now.
You're on the...
Whatever it is, it's off the rails.
Yeah, you're on the Off the Rail podcast here. Mark Who 42's Universe. Who else has got a birthday coming up?
Finally, on October 14th is Katie Manning's birthday.
Katie Manning. Wow. Joe Grant. Cool. And Iris Wildtime, which, by the way, I just finished listening to the Iris Wildtime 4 seasons on Big Finish Audio. What a wacko. Whoa. That was weird stuff.
With all this plugging you're doing for Big Finish, when are they sending you the check?
Big Finish will be sending me the check for my Christmas bonus, but that's not for you to know because then you'd want some. So we'll just push that aside.
Okay, that's all the news.
All the news and the birthdays.
That's all the news for today and the birthdays.
Okay,
yes.
So I think we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we are going to review The Caretaker from 2 weeks ago. And, of course, we'll have Kill the Moon later on in the program. You're listening to Mark Who 42's Whoniverse.
Hi, everybody. Patty Hawkins here with the Geeks of Comedy, and I'm with the Mark Who 42 podcast, a wonderful program for all generations of regenerations.
Welcome to a collaboration between the Geekcast Radio Network and the Pop Culture Network. This is From the Command Center, the podcast. I am your host, Steve, Joe, and Mike from the GCRN, and joining me is Zordon himself. Scotty Cash.
That's right, Scotty Cash from the Pop Culture Network, and today we're introducing you to the audio version of From the Command Center, the podcast that will entail our intake on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the episodes, the seasons, and all that other good stuff.
Kid? Yes? Shut up.
Beyond the Night is the GCRN's latest review podcast. We are covering everything in the Knight Rider television universe, from the classic 80s TV series to the 1991 reunion film, Team Knight Rider, and the 2008 relaunch series as well. So join TFG and Mike and Dion the Music Man as they go in-depth in Beyond the Night, only on Geekcast Radio Network. You can find Beyond the Night in iTunes and on www.geekcastradio.com.
Kid?
Yes, Michael.
Just keep driving
Grab your helmets because it's time to assemble Mask. The Geekcast Radio Network has launched Masked Mayhem with your hosts Optimus Solo and TFG and Mike. This podcast covering all 75 episodes of Mask will feature in-depth analysis of every episode, talk on the toys, and more. Masked Mayhem will run 30 podcast episodes. You can find us in iTunes and on www.geekcastradio.com. Get your spectrums ready as podcasting is the ultimate weapon.
Welcome back to Mark 42's Universe. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. We've got Patricia-helm, Eduardo-m-Freyre, and Christian-basel on. And now it's time for our review of The Caretaker. We weren't on last week, or rather we were on last week, but we didn't have a review show. So we're covering Caretaker right now. Guys, what is your thoughts on The Caretaker?
I liked it.
You liked it?
I liked it a lot.
I liked it too.
What about you, Christian?
9.9.
9.9? I have to give it a 7.
Wow.
I can't, no, that doesn't mean I didn't like it. It just means I didn't think it was the best it could be. There were parts of it that were a little, I don't know. I just don't like Clara. Clara loses 3 points. Clara loses 3 points. Right there.
I would give it a 9 out of 10, and really one of the main reasons why is the whole thing with the doctor about how when he was talking with Danny Pink, the whole thing about how he couldn't accept him being a math teacher. It went on and on and on. And it was like not just there, it was in several spots.
Well, he couldn't retain it. He couldn't retain the thought that a soldier could be a maths teacher, excuse me.
Yes. Well, I guess he was surprised also when the Brigadier became one too.
You know what? That's a good point. That's a very good point. The Brigadier was a maths teacher in Modern Undead, and the doctor, did he accept that back then?
I don't know if he accepted it, but I know he was surprised.
I don't. It's been a while since I've seen Modern Undead, but I do seem to recall that the doctor was surprised, that he didn't think it was a good use of the Brig's talents. Notice that when the Brigadier was a math teacher, he had amnesia.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of makes you wonder, are we seeing history repeating?
You know, I have a question now. The way that the doctor treats military, what would he have thought of the Brigadier now? Would he be friends with him?
It's just like he has a sudden extreme hatred of soldiers. And is it something to do with, the war doctor, with everything like spilling over all of a sudden, because it's like, they said that the war doctor wouldn't remember what their encounter and, so I mean, and like 10 wouldn't remember. And, it was just from that point with 11 on, would he actually remember? So is he getting back these other memories that we really don't know? And is this where he's getting this sudden extreme hatred from? Because it's, I mean, before, he didn't really like soldiers, and he was the whole thing, don't salute me and all that stuff. But I don't know, it just seems all of a sudden very extreme.
If I can interject two things. One, it's almost like he disavows the third and the fourth regeneration for his time in unit. It's almost like, okay, so what was that time in unit? Because you kind of like soldiers, you had to work with them at one point. I mean, you could have left them or stuff like that, but you needed to take care of things on the planet and fix your TARDIS. So you had to work with the Brigadier. So all that time, and that moment in the Wedding of River Song where he pays homage to the Brigadier when he passes away, he gets all teary-eyed and stuff, but he just moves on. Now, all of a sudden, like, I hate soldiers again? Yeah. So that was one thing that I'm hoping they explain it, or otherwise the continuity just seems to get thrown off from the past.
Well, I think they're going to explain it because there is a unit story in the final two-parter. So, I mean, it does come to something.
Well, don't forget Christian. First of all, as the Fourth Doctor worked with UNIT, I think, like twice. And remember, when he got called in Terror of the Zygons, he didn't like what he was being called in for. He was like, look, I gave it to you for an emergency. This is not an emergency. WTF, man.
Right, but this thing where he's just counting on soldiers and knowing that his best friend gone and being a soldier.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's weird, but don't remember, I mean, this is maybe an extreme form of something that has always existed, because remember also during the Third Doctor's time with UNIT, a lot of the military mindset, he was like, yeah, okay, fine. Remember, one of his signature lines, he goes, I don't report anywhere, particularly forthwith. So, he's not...
I get your point on that, but remember, he didn't berate the Brigadier in Battlefield in front of Doris, and they were still fighting together. Mm-hmm. So what changed over from that point on that made him... I wish it was just explained a little bit later. So, the War Doctor to an extent, but now you get to see Danny Pink verbally backhand him like, see, he is a general. I used to take orders from guys like him. So where is this coming from?
It's funny you bring that scene up. Because for me, okay, what makes me give The Caretaker a 9 is that scene. Like, that scene is what sells the episode for me. Because the thing that I noticed is when Danny Pink starts giving back to the Doctor, when he starts, instead of just taking hits from the Doctor, when he starts giving them, notice the Doctor gets affected. This really affects him. Danny's whole routine of, "Sir, yes, sir!" The Doctor's just boiling over. He's turning red. It hit him. It hit him where he lived. Like, it hit a spot. Danny's jabs hit something.
Which I think, and this is where I'm going to go with my second point, what would you have thought if The Caretaker were the second episode? Because for me, The Caretaker finally, as opposed to the previous episodes, worked on the character of the Doctor. We finally got to see the humor. We got to see why he's, this way. And it wasn't in a deeply unpleasant way. And then stories like Robot of Sherwood, Into the Dalek would have made sense to me.
Right.
As of coming out of the gate and not seeing where the horse ran, we've seen what he's doing. We saw that humor. So we know he's still got the Doctor in there. But now we've got an explanation as to where the other stories could have just fit in, and we could accept the Doctor, that he still has that humor. He still has that heroic being inside him. I think this would have been a better second episode.
It would have, but I think they needed to push it back in the season because of the Danny Pink storyline. I think they were going that the Danny Pink storyline was more important than the Doctor storyline, which I hate to say is one of my problems with this season is that I think Peter Capaldi is a great Doctor. I think the Doctor is excellent. I think the season so far, story-wise, has been subpar. If this had been a character development as a second episode, you're right, Christian, it would have worked. But instead, they were thinking, well, we want this Danny thing to work out, so let's write a story around him and put it somewhere in the middle.
I think that I agree with you, Christian. I think that it would have been a better second episode because remember when we were talking about in the first one in Deep Breath, how there was no moment of the Doctor going, "I'm the Doctor," that the other two had, and I think this one is kind of more along that point, that I feel like this is where you finally go, oh, yeah, he is the Doctor. So I think it would have made a better second episode as well.
I think they were focusing so much on the story arch with the Promised Land and Danny Pink and all what's going on that we've gotten confused to, okay, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And I've kind of lost, and I hate to say this, but the more I continue to watch the episodes, the more I'm losing faith, unfortunately, in Moffat as because I don't know.
I kind of have.
It worked with Matt. Why couldn't it have worked with Peter? Why we can still keep him mysterious, but we need to define him. He's got to be more than just some guy who just, gets teed off all the time when he meets people. There's got to be a reason why. And I think the Caretaker kind of glimpsed into that a lot more than any of the stories previous. And that's why I kind of get lost. That's why I think people, and maybe even it's reflecting on the ratings, that what am I watching now? Is this Doctor Who or Clara Who?
I was just saying this last night. I was just saying, look at season 2 when David Tennant took over. Look at season 5. How awesome were those seasons? They were excellent seasons, and every episode you were glued to the TV and you were just like so into it. And then now we have the new Doctor, and I don't feel that at all. I feel like I'm all over the place. I feel like I can't get a handle on him, and I feel like these stories aren't worthy of him.
That was my point exactly. I think Capaldi is a great Doctor. I think the stories are missing.
There's no heart to them. There's no hearts. Yeah.
No hearts. Very good. Maybe we need a new showrunner. Maybe Moffat's tired.
That's what I said at the very end of Kill the Moon last night. I turned to Eddie and I said, it's time for Moffat to go bye-bye.
If he can finally run it, but the problem is you need to capture, with the amount of time that they have and the amount of episodes they have, they need to capture that audience at the very beginning, which they try to do with Into the Dalek. Which would have been fine if we had seen some of that characterization, some of that humor brought into the Dalek. But we saw a Doctor who was, I don't like you. why do I like you? And maybe that's what Moffat is challenging the audience with. But as a showrunner for a very, very popular show, as you notice the ratings decline, is that a reflection of that? People are getting turned off by, I really hate this guy. They're writing to the doctor, but they're not writing to Capaldi's doctor. And that's what I'm worried about.
And see, I've been seeing things online saying, people said they wanted a darker doctor and we're trying to give it to him, but now everybody's complaining that, they can't identify with him, that they can't get a hold of him.
They've already answered all these questions in the past, and now all of a sudden he's a jerk?
Yeah.
What happened to the first Doctor? What happened to the third and the fourth Doctor? What happened to the all these guys? We've answered these questions. It's time to move on. We can be the Dark Doctor, and he is perfect. He has shown it. He is a great actor. The writing towards this, it's not gelling with that.
Nope.
It's like, we do want a darker Doctor. It doesn't mean that he all of a sudden has to be, feels and hugs and we do want a Dark Doctor. It's just that we don't have a handle. We don't have, who is he supposed to be? Okay, one of our worries coming into this season, when we were thinking about Deep Breath, is how long are we going to have the regeneration crisis till we get a definitive feel on who this Doctor is? And I don't know, I just find myself wondering, is this like a season-long regeneration crisis? Is this what we're dealing with here? Are we still in the regeneration crisis?
Sometimes it feels like it.
I think we're in the character building crisis. Instead of one episode, we're taking 8 episodes to figure it out.
8
and
or
still
10
even then, it's not that.
Speaking of characterization, we've been seeing glimpses of this person the whole season, and we finally get to meet her for real, Courtney Woods. What do you think about her? This new, I guess, companion, it seems like.
The Doctor did give a hint that he wanted to give her the job.
Yeah, but I love the line, Ozzy loves to squatty. That's funny.
I actually kind of like Courtney in a way. She's not as annoying as What's-Her-Face from Nightmare in Silver.
Yeah, right. They finally have a kid that's not annoying.
Yeah, she's not as annoying. And I think I'm interested to see where they're going to take this character. And it makes me wonder who she is, because I'm starting to think that maybe she's adopted. We saw the parents, but, it could be her adopted parents. You never know. Because didn't we hear someplace that she's supposed to be Danny Pink's sister? He was in a home, and so it seems like he doesn't know who his parents are either.
Before the season started, there was something about that.
But then Orson Pink is talking about how time travels in his blood. But Danny Pink really hasn't been traveling. Uh-huh. So where's the time travel in his blood coming from? And then, the Doctor put the sign, "Go away, humans," on the outside there.
Yeah.
And yet she went in anyway? Does she consider herself not human? Or, I don't know. There's something about her that I think we're going to maybe find out. I think there's going to be there's a mystery to her.
I think it's refreshing because, her first couple of glimpses, we started to think, Angie Mark II. But then, and we'll get more into this when we jump from Caretaker to Kill the Moon. Well, first of all, we see she does have a curiosity about things. She was curious enough to, go into the woodshed or tool shed or wherever the TARDIS was parked. She did want to see the TARDIS. She wanted to know what was going on with this new caretaker who calls himself John Smith or the Doctor. I think also that final scene with her when the Doctor actually takes her on a jaunt in the TARDIS to drop off the Skovok Splitzer, the spillage scene. It's a funny scene, and it's also nice that you could go with, instead of, first of all, going with Angie, oh my God, this is so boring, or they could have gone with, right, exactly. They could have gone with her saying it was stupid, or they could have done her just acclimating, like that. But instead, you have kind of an inverse of that scene with Amy and the Doctor, where Amy's floating in space and just in awe over everything. It's interesting that you get a different thing here because she wanted to go for a ride, but then what happened? She goes for a ride and she gets space vertigo. So it was nice seeing a variation of that.
For Courtney, and I'll explain this when we do the Kill the Moon, I actually like Courtney in Caretaker, but didn't care for her, no pun intended, in Kill the Moon. I don't know what happened. It was almost like, for me, it was almost like two different characters. We'll explain that when we get into Kill the Moon.
What did you like about her
in the Caretaker? It was if you want to give her that title, a companion that could take on the Doctor. It was a companion for Capaldi's Doctor, not Clara, Courtney. She could go head-to-head, face-to-face, and make it funny and make it strong. And you could see the two of them having a respect for each other, but still having to win their little battle at the same time. And when Courtney finally proves herself, goes into the TARDIS, and the doctor's pointing her out to nebulas and stars and all that stuff, what's the first thing she does? She goes puke. So I meant the doctor finally gives his little victory, going like, oh, honey, you don't know what's going on. By the way, there's a spillage.
Something I just thought of, too. It's like, you know, if she was on there, it would be getting almost like Ace back in a way, because it would be more of a younger person that is not interested in boys yet, you know, in a way. And so it's like we get rid of Clara and the whole romantic thing. And then, you know, I mean, it would be like getting a companion there that would be like, okay, let's go do the adventures. And then the doctor wouldn't have to worry about the hanky-panky and the TARDIS, as he called it, you know. And so it's like, I think that, it would be great to have a younger companion that's, you don't have to worry about all that stuff.
And I'm glad you brought up Ace, because Ace kind of went her own way. And that's the difference between the Courtney that I saw in The Caretaker. She walked right past the sign. She was snooping around. She got on the TARDIS eventually and got the feel for time and space. When she was in Kill the Moon, she was practically taking orders. The only thing that I thought was kick butt is she pulled out her own version of Nitro 9, got that spray stuff, and killed the spider. Yep. So that's why I saw a little bit of that Ace coming out.
I like what they did with Danny Pink in this episode. We haven't gotten the whole story behind him, but we're learning, and the way that this has been given out, it gives us something to work with. It gives us something to play with. Like, one of the things I'm wondering, you know, I was watching this, and one of the things I find myself wondering, what did Danny do exactly when he was in the Army? We do know he was a sergeant. We know that he served overseas.
What pushed him too far? What was the order that he had to follow that was too far?
You know, remember the conversation he had with Clara when he, you know, said, talking about the doctor, he says, I know men like him, I've served under them. And then he made her promise that she would tell him if the doctor ever pushed her too far. So obviously, I'm thinking it's pretty obvious that he was in a situation where his superior pushed him too far. So something went wrong. Something happened.
I also have to wonder, was it a situation where, because one of the things he said when he spoke to Clara is, I know people like him. They push you to do things you never thought you'd do. You know, I saw you there. You didn't hesitate, and you should have. I kind of have to wonder, did he have a mentor figure in the Army that he trusted, that, you know, kind of made him the man he is? And was there betrayal there? You know, was there a betrayal, or was he forced by this mentor figure to do something that he didn't want to do? The other thing I kind of wonder is, I remember a few episodes back when he and Clara had the disastrous dinner. One of the things he harped on was, oh, wells. You know, I was building wells. You know, what about that? And then notice he took an interest in the stuff that the doctor was planting around the Coal Hill School. Could he have been an engineer? Could he have been one of the Royal Engineers? Could he have been EOD? Is that something in his background as well?
I think after you get pushed to build the 39th well, maybe, you know, he was done with it.
Jumping to something else. Notice we had Coal Hill School, but we didn't have Ian and or Barbara.
Now, from what I understand, they were toying with bringing Ian back, that they actually were thinking about doing it, but the writer of the episode, Gareth-Roberts, kind of was like, yeah, I'm not sure we need to throw something
he said it would be
else
too much of a distraction, and that would be something that would be deserving of its own episode.
And he'd be glad to do it.
I gotta say, though, I found myself like, okay, I was a little disappointed we didn't get Ian, although I liked the episode as is. I couldn't help but wonder. We have Danny trying to understand Clara traveling with the doctor and, you know, and everything about the doctor. Wouldn't it have been interesting if there was a moment, maybe at the end after they dealt with the Skovox Blitzer, where Danny's walking through the school halls and then all of a sudden a voice comes out and goes, you look like you need some help. And then he turns and there's Ian. He goes, oh, Governor, I didn't see you there. And then all of a sudden they start talking and Ian kind of tries to relax Danny into what's going on. Like, you know, I know it's confusing. I know you have a lot of questions. I did too, but, you know, it'll be, you know, like kind of being this
this figure to kind of say it'll be okay.
It would have been a different way to go.
It would have.
And it would have been a nice way to go.
But wouldn't that have been interesting? Having like a veteran companion talking to this potential new one and going, hey, I know this is weird, but, trust me, it was weird for me too.
Can we talk about something that I thought was funny in the episode?
Totally.
Oh, we don't want sense of humor on this podcast.
On this radio show here on Krypton Radio, we don't do funny. Yes, we do. We do funny all the time. Go
Adrian,
for it.
the other English teacher, the 11th.
Did they have a casting call for Matt Smith?
But it was so
He wasn't
funny
available.
that it was so funny how Capaldi's reaction to him when he sees him, and he assumes that that's Claire's boyfriend. He's like, "Oh, of course."
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Of course, she loves me the way I was, and I give
and then
her my
his
blessing.
reaction when he finds out that when she says, "Oh, he's not my type," that look on his face was hysterical. It's like, what do you mean? And the other funny part that I liked was when the doctor was whistling.
Oh, the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't need no education. Yeah.
The wall.
Already becoming my favorite Doctor closely because of that moment. That's all I needed. If a Doctor whistles Pink Floyd, he's getting up there in the ranks.
Oh, yes.
And hey, did everybody notice who made a comeback finally after a little absence? Missy.
Missy, who was very busy.
Upset.
I wonder
She
why
looked annoyed.
that day.
Yeah.
So who is this guy
he's
that's
credited
working
as
for Missy?
his name is Seb, S-E-B. Now he was
Seb.
Peter Capaldi's co-star in the thick of it.
I knew I recognized him.
Something I noticed is like when he was talking with the police officer, it's like that area had been transformed like into a police station. It even had the background noise of the phones ringing and the fans going, and it was almost like it was set up to try to make the officer feel comfortable. Like put him in a situation that he was comfortable with. But then when he realized he wasn't, or he thought he was, and what was out the window?
Maybe that courtyard again, the heavenly.
Well,
courtyard.
but why would that cause the cop to have the reaction he did?
Because it's
And so
Walmart.
someone mentioned that he said when he looked out the window, he goes, "Oh my God!" And then Missy appears, and they're like, "Oh, she's busy."
For those who are playing the Who is Missy game.
Yeah, you know what? I'm possibly taking my money off my mouth from what I said before. I'm rethinking this whole Missy thing, which I think is the point.
Well, I will say this, for anybody who's playing the game and trying to figure out the mystery, the fact that the cops showed up in the Promised Land, this shoots down our theory that it has something to do with robots and technology.
However, it does bring the fact that it has to do with deaths caused by the Doctor, because the Skobix Blitzer was here in Coal Hill area because of the Artron emissions. Now, Artron energy is what fuels the TARDIS, and so there'd be plenty of it there, like they said there was, because of stories like Unearthly Child, Attack of the Cybermen, and Remembrance of the Daleks, when the TARDIS and the Doctor were there.
Ah.
So it is the Doctor's fault that the Skobix Blitzer
Okay,
is
good.
there.
Because I was trying to make a connection with that, and I couldn't.
Yeah, the Artron emissions were from Artron energy, and it's been mentioned in the classic series that Artron energy is part of the fuel for the TARDIS. And, Remembrance of the Daleks, they were at Coal Hill. Attack of the Cybermen, they were in the Foreman junkyard. And Unearthly Child, the Doctor had been there for quite some time. So there is plenty of Artron energy there, and there is a line in the episode that mentions that there's plenty of it in the area. So
you.
there, people. You're welcome.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah,
makes
I'm
my
glad it
head
makes you
hurt
feel
less.
Put that on your little cork board or wherever where you're trying to connect the dots.
Do we have any last things to talk about dealing with the caretaker? Any last words?
So last year she was an extremely disruptive influence, and this year she's just a disruptive influence. Improvement!
That's improvement. Yeah. Very good improvement. And we're going to improve on this podcast.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You're going there.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's go to a commercial on that.
Christian.
Oh, yeah.
Christian,
We
why
just
don't
need another
you, why
brick
don't
on
you
the
switch
wall.
from the wall to, I don't know, maybe schools out forever.
We'll be right back with more of Mark Who 42's Whoniverse here on Krypton Radio with our review on Kill the Moon. We'll be right back. Attention all Whovians! While you're waiting for the new episode of Doctor Who, start your own adventures with a book from Mark Who 42 Books. They carry unique and rare books at affordable prices. Visit Amazon.com/shops/MarkWho42. That's Amazon.com/shops/MarkWho42. Mark Who 42 Books. Set your imagination free into the Whoniverse.
The voice of Christian-basel, take one.
Hi, I'm Christian-basel, and I would like to provide my voice for all your voiceover needs, such as...
Okay, like an announcer.
Like a what?
Like an announcer.
For all your voiceover needs, such as animation, radio, announcements, introductions...
Now an old man.
I can even record voicemail for all the Meshuggahs that call you.
A pirate.
Arr, and it won't cost you a lot of treasure for me services. Arr.
Creepy movie voice.
Just call 407-761-2679. 407-761-2679. Or email voiceofchristian-basel@yahoo.com. Well, how was that?
That's a wrap.
This is Ian McNeese, and you're listening to Mark Who 42.
Welcome back to Mark Who 42's Whoniverse. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten, and with me, as always, are Patricia-Helm, Eduardo-m-Freyre, and Christian-basel. And we're here on Krypton Radio and all over the interweb thingy to discuss Kill the Moon, the episode that was just on for Doctor Who last Saturday. Guys, what'd you think of Kill the Moon?
It was all right.
Is that a
Sorry.
rating?
No, you know.
Can I get a meh? No,
Meh?
it was all right. It was okay. It wasn't terrible, but it didn't, I didn't like it as much as I liked Caretaker.
Was this supposed to be a dark, scary episode? Because it wasn't.
No.
No, it wasn't at all.
It's like, that's the way it was advertised. I thought, spider thingies, this is going to be really creepy and scary.
It was boring. There was whole sections of it that nothing was happening. It was boring.
I was disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean, I will admit I had to watch it again because first time I watched it, I was almost in a rage. I just at how bad I thought it was.
I'm watching it, I'm mumbling things.
Yeah, second time watching it, I still didn't like it, but I wasn't quite as to imitate the creatures from this episode. I wasn't running around going.
Yeah.
What about you, Christian?
Like
Christian,
what about you, Christian?
I was waiting for Ed to go Monty Python and go, kill it! Kill it!
Well, they did go Monty Python. He did the Ministry of Silly Walks. The doctor did the Ministry of Silly Walks for gravity tests. I mean, he
That's why it looked familiar.
It was the Ministry of Silly Walks. I mean, it was cool. He used a yo-yo for gravity readings, Ark in Space, Tom Baker, all that fun stuff. But the Ministry of Silly Walks, I liked. I thought that was funny. I love Peter Capaldi. He's a great doctor. I just wish the stories were better.
Alrighty, I got to do it this way. Was anybody else waiting for Sigourney Weaver to pop out of nowhere and start blasting people?
Yes.
It was just aliens copied.
That's what I thought it was going to be. I wouldn't have minded if the whole episode had been that.
Yeah,
but
an action episode or something.
It wasn't.
No.
And I thought it was weird when they first, when the other astronauts came in, instead of asking, "How did you get on my ship?" they're like, "Who the hell do you think you are?" And I was like, that's a weird way to start up a conversation.
It was to save time.
It was like, ooh, that's weird. It could have been so much better. It had such potential. And
I found myself thinking of a season 7B episode. As far as one particular thing about Kill the Moon, I found that this had a Rings of Akatan moment in the sense that the monster for this episode, they look like spiders.
Right.
But then the doctor goes, they're bacteria. So why were they looking like spiders? What was the point of them looking like spiders?
I mean, I had heard a rumor. I saw a line on the internet saying Menebelis 3, and I saw that just somewhere in the last couple of weeks, Menebelis 3.
That was me. That was me.
You?
That was me.
Okay. Well,
that was me.
you
After I saw...
Then it was you who got me thinking, we're going to have them on their backs and they're going to be taken over. Oh, yeah, it was your fault. Okay.
No, it's not my fault. No, it's not my fault because this is the thing. This is just me theorizing because when I saw that clip when I saw the clip that was on the Graham Norton show,
right,
I was like, oh, maybe it's the spiders from Medabolis 3, especially because one of the rumors swirling around was that the Doctor would have to deal with a mistake from a past adventure. And I thought, back to Planet of the Spiders. But no, what we got, if we went back to an episode, we went back to Rings of Akatan because they're space spiders, but they're not space spiders. It's Space Egypt all over again. Yeah. It's Space Egypt, but we don't know why it's Space Egypt. It's like...
Which is funny because didn't Matt Smith's Doctor have the crystal from Medabolis 3?
Yeah.
Which I didn't connect all that, but now I'm thinking in retrospect, you know what? John Pertwee could have had a longer career if he just brought Windex in his final episode out there, and that was it. He could just taken it out. You know, he gotten a big thing of spray and wash. Done.
Matt Smith.
Screw you, Tom Baker. I'm staying here.
Yeah, could have gotten a can of Raid.
Speaking of Matt Smith, at the beginning of the episode is Clara berating the Doctor for saying that Courtney wasn't special. Didn't 11 in one of the episodes say that all humans are special?
Yes.
And so his personality change as a new Doctor, he rescinds that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now this episode actually, I remember, Christian, you were saying something about how Courtney was like a completely different character in Kill the Moon.
I meant either it was a development where she, like when she first saw the stars out there in The Caretaker, then she threw up, you know, it was all talk, all bad, but when she finally gets into the realm, now we get to see the real Courtney, and it's like, oh no, it's not, you know, it's not Scary Child, but if we were referring to Ace, and Ace wouldn't have backed out, she would have stood her ground, she would have hidden.
Right.
And we did see an Ace moment where she sprayed the spider, but beyond that, she was ready to go back inside the TARDIS, and she went.
Space seems a little dangerous for a 15-year-old in the way the TV is written and the Doctor Who is written now. Maybe it's not a place to put a 15-year-old companion on the TARDIS because it is going to be so dangerous, and that's tantamount to child abuse.
Christian, with the why Courtney is so different from one day to the next. The thing for me, I think, is that it also shows... I mean, I like Courtney in this episode, especially because it goes beyond the Caretaker in stripping out, you know, in saying she's not the typical teenager, sassy teenager. And this is the thing. Not everybody is Ace. Not everybody is Amy, you know, with the way they acclimated. It's one thing to talk tough, to be like, oh, yeah, space, cool. But here she is getting thrown into the deep end. They're on the moon. You have these creatures that are out killing things. There are earthquakes. People are around talking devastation. This is really tough for anybody, especially
for a 35-year-old. I mean, the 15-year-old. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially, it's hard for anybody, but especially for a young girl to take. I
get what you're saying. It's because the first time we knew the glimpse of it when she threw up, when she saw space, and okay, now I'm not tough anymore. Then she finally, we finally see the Courtney develop. We get to see the onion layers getting peeled when she finally has to be thrown into that. To me, I was thinking more or less that the writers could have done something with her to develop her character to have been the final result, and I didn't get that. I meant she could have been the one to make the final decision, or could have went instead of Clara to make an announcement to the Earth people to say, she could have made that decision. And being that she was, technically the first woman on the moon.
And spoiler, Courtney will be president of the United States.
I don't know. I kind of think that was the Doctor being facetious.
Well, yeah. But I'd vote Courtney for president.
Clara was moaning and groaning, and this was the Doctor being like, "Oh, see, no, everything's fine," and she becomes president. Happy now?
She could have been the president while they were there, while they were on the moon in 2049. She could have been president then.
Well, the astronaut did say she when the Doctor was railing. Yeah.
But did you guys notice how it seems that at that time the Earth was not interested in space?
Yes.
They had lost their interest, their desire to explore space.
The last people that went into space were Mexicans, to mine.
And she said they were the last astronauts.
Yeah.
It was the last shuttle. They had to take it out of a museum and retrofit it because the back half had been cut off.
Right.
And that those were also the last nuclear bombs.
Yeah. It's interesting. This episode, the Doctor says that he can't see the timeline in certain gray areas like this one. And it turns out that this gray area is the turning point for the human race. I remember in Torchwood, it's Captain Jack, in the opening credits, makes a line, the early 21st century, this is when everything changes. Well, in 2049, everything changes again because man finally looks up. They look up at the moon and what happens, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this is the year that man decides to leave Earth and populate the universe. If not for this decision made in this episode, all future Doctor Who stories, all future exploration of space would never have happened. We would have stayed introverted onto Earth.
And yet again, now it all comes down to Clara affecting the entire whole civilization because she's so darn important.
Yeah, because you know what? I would have voted the same as everyone on Earth. I would have turned my lights off. I am not ashamed to say that.
But that was the point, is that the people are now worried about what's going on here. We're not worried about anymore what's going on out there. Let me throw this in there. I've just been thinking about this. What if Clara sent a signal to the Earth, and in response is future Courtney as a prime minister or a president down there?
Yeah, I guess she couldn't be president, could she? She's not. She wasn't born in America. It takes that.
Well, I meant
no. That just messes
a future
up my
leader
theory.
of some kind, and she gets the response from Courtney, and Courtney sees this.
Yeah.
I thought that might be a character builder. And it's like, oh, I'm going to be what? And that could have been a new dynamic in the story where Courtney was there already.
Right.
And then Courtney knows the outcome. She goes, oh, okay, everybody, leave your lights on. And says that to the whole planet. I thought that would have been, now that I'm thinking about it, what would you guys think? I think that would have been an interesting story there.
Well, I'd leave my hat on, but I don't know if I would not leave my lights on.
The electric bill.
I don't know. See, for me, I have a few problems with the ending, but as far as this particular scene, the lights, and then Clara deciding to hit the abort button, I don't know, it just feels, see, okay, I mentioned Rings of Akatan earlier, but I found myself thinking about another Season 7B episode. In this case, I thought of Journey to the Center of the TARDIS.
Oh, you're picking great ones to think about.
Because see, this is the thing, though. This is the thing. The reason I thought of Journey to the Center of the TARDIS is when all is said and done, when we have the finale, when we have the resolution, it feels hollow. Because, okay, the vibe that I got is that, Earth is looking inward, and there's even a trace of xenophobia. Because the head astronaut, Hermione Norris's character, when they talk about how there's an alien in the heart of the moon, that the moon is actually a giant egg, what's her first response? How do we kill it? Her first response is kill it. When she's talking to Courtney and Clara, she's like, oh, this could be a parasite. Oh, is it just going to fly off? What's it going to do to us? She's going straight to the negative. And it seems from what we got from the scene with the lights, she is not the exception. She is the rule. Yeah. When given a choice of saving an innocent life that is on the moon or saving themselves, the people of Earth chose themselves. And then what happens? We have Clara, we have superhero Clara deciding for everybody that, she just decides you're all wrong and hits the abort button. And then, what happens? We have the egg hatching and the space life form comes out. And then, we also even have that the space life form is able to lay eggs 2 seconds after being born.
It's a tribble. It's a tribble.
Right?
It's a giant tribble.
Yeah, it's a giant space.
Remember Hair on Mars?
Yeah, but you understand where I'm going with this, right?
Yes.
In the sense that just like Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, nobody has to live with any consequence.
Yes.
The entire population of Earth was voting for a space abortion.
And that may be why Missy didn't appear, because there was no consequence.
Nobody had to live with their choices. The people of Earth got to sit there and go, oh, okay, well, somebody took the decision away from me, so I don't have to think about how I said yes to murder. Hermione Norris's character, she got to just take all those negative feelings that she had about space and, put them away as, oh, okay, I was just having a bad day. I didn't have my coffee. But I'm better now. it's again, it just felt like there was no, it was a giant Deus Ex Machina, or in this case, Deus Ex Clara. Ugh.
Just had this image of the moon being a tribble, and then Neil Armstrong coming off the rocket going, "That's one small step for man." Damn, that tickles.
God. But you get what I'm saying,
Well, I see her being the representative of Earth. She speaks for them. She sees their point of view. First thing the human race does, if something's wrong, we don't deal with it, we kill it. Kind of almost the way that the Brigadier came across to the Doctor, during the time as the third Doctor came up. But
Doctor Who and the Silurians, he destroyed the base.
Right, regardless of how everything was going. Prime Minister Harriet Jones, she blew up the Sycorax even though they were leaving.
She said that's what you do with aliens, you blow them up.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's just like, I don't even take chances that they're leaving. I don't want them to even tell people what goes on here, because somebody's going to turn around and go, you know what, that's the Earth, we'll screw with it. We'll come down there and get it. But would it have been a better story maybe for Courtney's development if she was the one that hit the stop button instead of Clara?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we would have had a different and better story. But would have been a very good Courtney development to show that she had that gumption, that she made a decision to hit that button instead of Clara.
But remember, Steven-Moffat isn't writing a show about Courtney. He's writing a show about Clara.
Yeah, because Clara is supposed to be the main character.
Because Clara is the main character, Doctor Who.
You can have her.
Now here's a question to everybody. What did you think of the Doctor leaving? The Doctor just jumping in the TARDIS and letting them make their own decision.
It was very anti-Time Lord Victorious.
Yeah.
I think it was him correcting that mistake in a way. Huh. It's how he saying he wants to make up for his mistakes. Before he took everything into his own hands, decided he was going to make it his way. But then there's also, I don't want to get political here, but the underlying theme of this episode was about abortion, basically. And he even said he was going to let womankind decide, and he left. So basically he was taking the male part of it out of there and leaving it to the women to decide, which, is, So, so he left it to...
I see what you're saying, and that does make sense. Let's talk about some other aspects of this episode.
Here's something funny I noticed.
Okay.
When all the lights were going off on the planet, Florida was the last one to turn their lights off.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. We're crazy. We were like, I think it was maybe Mickey Mouse was in charge of the light bill. I don't know. That was stupid.
We're not turning off the lights until the electrical parade is done.
Yeah, that's probably what it was, the electrical parade. What did you guys think about the effects for what they were? The fact Lanzarote as the moon. What do you think? Did it look moon-like? I thought that it was a perfect location.
Worked for me.
It worked.
But weren't there pictures of Danny Pink in a fourth spacesuit on Lanzarote? I could have sworn before the season started, when they leaked pictures of this episode, there were pictures of Danny Pink in a fourth orange spacesuit.
It was, but it was Orson Pink.
Oh, so it wasn't. I'm confusing.
It was Orson Pink. It was him in the spacesuit, but he was the older Orson.
But not on the.
Not on the moon.
On the moon. Okay.
That's probably what it is.
Because I was waiting for Danny. I was like, Danny's gonna be in this episode, and then he wasn't. Well, he was at the end, and there's something I gotta say to Danny, and this is to Danny, not to the actor. Danny, why did you tell Clara that she wasn't done with the Doctor? Because I was happy about that. I was very happy because
half of
the
the
whole thing about the Doctor leaving, Clara got so upset with the Doctor and so betrayed that this is the promise that made him the caretaker, that Danny says, if he ever pushes you too far, let me know. Well, this episode was like right after that. He pushed her too far, and she lets him know. And unfortunately, Danny's like, oh, but you're not really done with him because you're just angry, and if you're angry with somebody, you aren't finished with them.
Well, it's like, have you ever seen the movie Clear and Present Danger?
Yes.
It's like the president character tells Harrison Ford, now I can tell you're upset,
You should never make decisions while you're upset.
Well, right, but why did Danny have to be the clear thinker on this one? Danny, I was happy. I'm glad that it looked like in the trailer for the Orient Express episode that Clara's not in it. I'm very happy about that. But then, unfortunately, now, if you're listening on Krypton Radio, and you want the latest news on Doctor Who, you've got to go to markwho42.net and look for episode 71, or go to iTunes, because we have a little news segment at the beginning of this discussion of the Caretaker and Kill the Moon. And we talk about Flatline. And in Flatline, in the description of the show, you mentioned Clara, and I was like, oh...
Yeah,
Clara's bad.
See, that's you bring up something. I mean, you bring up something interesting, Mark. That and I said this to Trish when we were doing our post-episode discussion, and that's if you turn the clock back a few months ago, before season 8 started, when we were just going through the news, Flatline sounded like a cool episode. You know, it's like, oh well, Clara on her own. This could be interesting, but
not anymore.
See, exactly, because the thing is that Clara has been set up as this, has been set up as the dominant character. So I don't want to see an episode with Clara as the focus, with Clara as the hero, because that's what we've been getting.
And I find it so interesting that in Kill the Moon, so far this season, Clara's been the one making all the decisions for the Doctor, basically taking over, doing everything. Then the one time he decides to take off and let her handle it, she gets mad at him.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is the thing. Clara's whole speech at the end, her whole ragging on the Doctor, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with her. Let's see. Robots of Sherwood. You had the three of them. You had Robin Hood, the Doctor, and Clara chained up in the dungeon. And then the sheriff's toady comes in, and his job was to take away the one who was obviously in charge. And who did he take away? Clara. Who was shown to be the alpha in Listen? Clara.
Yeah.
Into the Dalek. Who convinces the Doctor that maybe the good Dalek thing is not a virus, that maybe you could have a good Dalek? Clara. Clara has been Clara. But she's been consistently throughout the season being the alpha personality, not because people acknowledge her, but because she took every opportunity to undermine the Doctor, to take over from him. And like Trish just said, the one time the Doctor says, okay, I'm putting you in charge because I don't want to play God with humanity, she gets upset. Like, I'm sorry, I cannot get behind that. Like, I don't understand what her problem is.
Tell us what you really think.
I'm sorry. No, it just that whole thing rings it rings completely hollow to me, because if you can accuse the Doctor of anything, it's instead of standing his ground and taking charge, it's saying, okay, I'm leaving it up to you. And seriously, can anybody tell me, would any of the other, seriously, like, okay, the third Doctor, would he have made the decision? Or would he have done the same thing? Told the three girls that were there, it's up to you, because I can't make the decision for you.
You just called her the alpha personality, so I'm thinking she marked territory somewhere in the TARDIS, and that would not be a good thing right now.
So there's territory marked and spillage.
But wasn't there a time during the Third Doctor that that he let Jo Grant make some decisions? Or am I wrong about that?
Oh, Jo Grant. Well, I think every companion,
or even Sarah Jane,
at some point. But to make them consistently the solution of the episode, those decisions were not.
And then, going back to the other thing, Christian, you've mentioned one of your favorite moments is Curse of Fenric, right? Where the Doctor has to shatter Ace's faith in him.
I think that's one of the most classical, wonderful moments, because
and
now
then you have that same moment with Matt Smith and Amy in it was Night Terrors, right?
Right.
So, okay, if anybody has any right to yell at the Doctor for betraying them, it would be those two. But did they do that?
No, but their personalities would not let them do that.
Did Amy say, Doctor, take me and my husband home? Did Ace say, I would rather go back to that boring town where I grew up with than travel with you ever again. Did she do that?
Kind of sworn that Amy said it once.
Amy did say it once.
Yeah. She did say, take me home.
Yeah.
You know, I got to live my life. But Ace was a different beast altogether, and I admired her character for that because she put all her faith, and the Doctor just ripped her apart, her soul apart, right in front of her, just berated her, but she still stood up on her own 2 feet and go, oh, I got it. That's why you did it.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it still killed her inside.
Yeah, but the fact that Clara got upset because the Doctor said, it's your decision. The fact that the Doctor didn't save the day when the entire time throughout the season it's been Clara who's been, it's pretty much been Clara. I mean, even in The Caretaker, which we all seem to like, it came down to Danny Pink. Danny Pink was the one that saved the day by distracting the Skovax Blitzer.
But I think it goes back to, if we go back to The Girl Who Waited, remember, the Doctor put the lock of the TARDIS in Rory's hands. And Rory was pissed off. He goes, I don't want to be like you. I don't want to make this decision. Yeah. But he had to. He was enlightened by what the Doctor sees, the choices he had to make, and the Doctor gave it to him. And he had no choice but to lock that door under the older Amy's request. But he hated the Doctor for it. When people finally become the Doctor and have to make those choices, and the Doctor's the one who puts them into it, we're starting to realize, and maybe this was one of those incidences where, I hate you, Doctor. You're the one who used to rescue me. Now you put me in your shoes, and you disappeared. You jumped into that spider pit. Can people really take that? Will people take that choice? Well, I think she made the best decision she could at the time.
Well, I think Clara takes that choice unconsciously, but when she was actually confronted with the choice, then she got mad.
Right. And there was no Doctor around to berate. Yeah. It was all her.
Right.
Yeah.
Having that choice over life or death, over millions, or that kind of feeling. How does that make anyone feel?
So any last words on the Kill the Moon?
Okay, Wikipedia does not show Clara as being in the episode. The previews didn't show any Clara. The description for the episode says Clara's in it. I really hope that the description for Orient Express, that anything involving Clara, that's a sleight of hand because they didn't want to let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
For the ending. I really hope so because
possibly.
I want to see what happens when we have a Clara Light episode. I want to see.
She's so mad at him. Why would she immediately be back doing an adventure with him?
Exactly. I really hope we do get a companion Light episode out of this because I want to have at least one episode where we don't have Clara to see if maybe we can actually have the show become Doctor Who again.
And next week we have the opportunity for that.
I think it would have been more interesting if the commercial after Kill the Moon would have had Marie Osmond walk out there and goes, "My friend the Moon has just put on 1 trillion pounds this week." And she's
all right. Okay. We're gonna stop this right there. That's all the time we have for here on Mark. No, guys. That's all the time we have for Mark 42's Universe. Don't forget to keep listening to us every week on Krypton Radio. If you miss the news, go to mark42.net and look for episode 71. Otherwise, look for us on Facebook, Mark 42's Hooniverse. Go to mark42.net and join the Hooniverse Army. Tweet us at mark42. We're also on Geekcast Radio Network and Florida Geek Scene, amongst many other podcast providers. If you're just trying us for the first time, listen to some of our old episodes. Until next time, do we have anything last words?
Yeah, Christian, you were trying to whistle the wall earlier. Yeah. I think I have another school-related song you can do. Trish, when you recognize it, please feel free to join in. We're waiting for the clock to strike 3. When it's 3 o'clock, we'll be free.
I'm not paying royalties for this. We'll see you. You'll listen to us next time. Bye.
Peter Capaldi whistles all your favorite singing hits from Pink Floyd with his Scottish accent. All your favorite hits from Dark Side of the Moon to Comfortably Numb. Get it now, folks, while you still can.
Mark 42's Hooniverse has been written and presented by Mark Baumgarten, Patricia-Helm, Eduardo-m-Freyre, and Christian-basel. This show was edited, produced, and directed by Mark Baumgarten. Please visit mark42.net and register to join and be a part of the Hooniverse Army. We can be contacted by email at mark@mark42.net with the subject line ? If you have worked on Doctor Who or are working on a project relating to Doctor Who and want to be on our radio show, please email our media relations director, Christian-basel, at marku42media@yahoo.com. Doctor Who and its properties are owned by the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. This show is owned and copyrighted by Mark-Baumgarten 2014. You're listening to Krypton Radio.